Welcome back to the John Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH. Once again, as a quick recap of today's market activity, we lost 6 on the Dow. Yeehaw. 52,218 was our close. NASDAQ gave up 146.57%. S&P down 10. All right, we'll be getting to our topic momentarily. 10 common mistakes people make with existing estate plans. But first, I want to cover Google. Again, highly anticipated Google earnings numbers that came out today after the close. So here's the numbers, but more importantly, watch the capital expenditure side. This is what the street was looking for. So here's how the stock again is performing. Regular session, we finished down $4.28 to $341.91, a 1.24% loss. Watching it right now in the after hours, the stock is down $9.21, 2.69% pullback at $332.70. All right, so here is what Google had to say in their earnings call today. I'm going to just simplify things a little bit. Let's go to the earnings per share. They only made $2.85. Wall Street was looking for $2.89. Revenue was a beat, though, $119.80 billion. Estimates $116.93 billion. So there's two reasons, in my opinion, that the stock is selling off in the after hours. Number one, you had the earnings per share miss, which again is number one reason. But number two is the capital expenditure. How much money, what we call CapEx spend, how much money is the company going to be spending over the next year in regards to AI? I'll just use the term build out because that encompasses a lot of areas. Most on the street, we're looking for a CapEx spending of about $185 billion for the next year. No, came in well above that. Google said today on the analyst call, they expect to spend as high as $205 billion. A little interesting stat I picked up in the earnings. The company for the quarter made $99 billion in what they call other income. That is stakes in Anthropic and SpaceX. Just a little extra side money they threw into the stocks. Made $99 billion. Oh my goodness. The company debuted yesterday, debuted 3 cheaper Gemini models, including a cyber model geared towards tackling cybersecurity concerns. So they got a lot of things going on. But again, the CapEx side of it really is where the focus is on the trading side of things. And I should mention that guidance again was 185 to about 195. Again, the company came out today and said 195 to 205 billion. So well above expectation. So that was the gist of it. Again, unfortunately, I don't have time to go through great details of that. But, the reaction, like I said, in the after hour session, not the best. That doesn't mean it's going to continue to stay down overnight. Probably will, but we will see. And, of course, we always want to watch and see what a juggernaut like Google is doing to the after-hour session, and put a little bit of pressure. We've got the Nasdaq futures again just started trading down 159 points. Dow futures down 49. S&P is lower by 26. All right. With that said, let's go to the commodity side. As I mentioned, $1.86 gain on oil, $86.88 a barrel, and a $74.90 rise in gold at $4,151.60 per ounce. All right. Other movers of the day today. Tesla was down about $4.80. They had earnings report after the close. Okay numbers. Nothing great. I'm not even going to waste time telling you about it. Let's see. NVIDIA was a good performer today. $4.75 increase, $212.04. AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, $7.90 rise to $552.23. IBM was one of the drags on the Dow, lost about 2.1% or $4.41. Let's see. Supermicro was the star of the day after issuing encouraging margin guidance in the pre-market session this morning. SMCI finished up 19.84% or $5.06. But it had a big carryover effect to Dell and Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. Dell gained $37.55, 9.29% rise to $441.70. HPE, Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, a 3.04% gain, up $1.42 to $48.14. Let's see. Other than that, like I said, there's a few movers here, a few movers there, but nothing real significant. I'm going to take a closer look when I go to break at what Tesla's doing in the after hours. We'll see what kind of impact. But the headline that I saw was they missed some numbers, so we'll see what the stock is doing, as I said. All right, let's get down to our topic. Once again, 10 common mistakes people make with existing trust. I just got an email, again, hosting a webinar for you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. 1-hour webinar. Is your trust outdated? Again, I'm going to go through all the details as to how you can tell if your trust is outdated. And again, it's not about the date of the trust. It's about so many other components, so many other items. And those are going to be the things I'm going to share with you. But I'm going to give you a little cursor, a little pre-tease of what that webinar is going to be about. Just go to the website, specializedtrust.com, go to the Step Learning Institute at the top of the website, and you'll see webinars, and you just sign yourself up right there. All right. So let me start this off real quickly before I go to break with the following. One of the biggest misconceptions that I see in estate planning is this: I have a trust. I'm done. I don't need to talk about it. It's done. Finished it a couple years ago. Everything is great. But the truth is, creating the trust is really just the initial step. Because over the years, your life changes. Your family changes. People you love, people you hate change. Assets change. They come and go. Tax laws and estate planning laws change. And life changes. I attended a webinar today. It was really fascinating. Really high end attorney was hosting it. And she said one problem that they're seeing a lot of right now is if your trust was written between 2020 and 2025, many of the trusts were written with the quote assumption that the unified credit, which is the amount that you can have in your estate before estate taxes come due, was going to sunset. Remember that before Trump got elected in 2025, they were talking about taking the exemption at that point, which I don't remember what it was, 11, 10, 11, 12 million at that point, and bringing it back to like 2, 3, or 4 million, meaning a state over that amount could have been subjected to estate taxes. So many people, especially high net worth people, just went bonkers. Like we can't take the chance. We don't know if Trump's going to get elected. So let's rewrite the trust. So they're seeing a lot of problems with those trusts written between 2020 and 2025 having wrong verbiage in there because it was written, again, under the assumption that it was going to sunset. So just a little FYI from that attorney. So today, again, because tax laws change, your life changes, we're going to discuss the 10 most common mistakes I see when I'm reviewing existing trusts and why having a trust does not necessarily mean that your estate is up to date. So we'll come back with mistake number 1. Welcome back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. Happy Wednesday to all of you. We'll get back to our topic that we're just starting, 10 common mistakes people make who have existing trust. Told you I'd follow up on the Tesla situation. So we got some pressure on the stock. Regular session closed $4.92 lower, 1.3% to 374.01. Right now in the after hours, it's down $16.93, 4.53% decline to 357.08. Essentially what happened, the company had a pretty good earnings miss. They reported adjusted earnings of 33 cents a share. They missed Wall Street's expectation by 18 cents. Company did beat on the revenue side, posting 28.24 billion. Revenue expectation was 25.71 billion. So making a lot of money on the top line, but hurting on the bottom line. So that's the reason the stock is doing what it's doing in the after hours session. All right, back to the topic that we just started here. Mistake number 1 out of my 10. Your trust hasn't been reviewed in years. Again, your life has changed. Your family's changed. Your financial conditions have changed. New laws have come into question. When was the last time someone actually reviewed your trust? And again, as I've mentioned many times, and many of you have taken advantage of, if you have an existing trust and it hasn't been reviewed, reach out to me. Send me an email, Jon at specializedtrust.com. I'll set up a discovery call with you, a 30-minute discovery video call, no charge, no nothing. And we'll talk about what you have. Then I'll have you send over your existing trust. We'll throw it into our software. I hate using that term, but we'll throw it into our software. We have 4 large language AI models that will review every single word of that trust. It'll give us a summary report, both graphically as well as written in plain English so you can understand it. Then it will come back with the recommendations. I'll add my recommendations. The AI will add the recommendations. And then we'll have our next meeting and discuss it. Here's what here's what it is. You can decide what you want to do. Keep it as is or make changes on it. It's really that simple. But again, I don't charge anything for the trust review. It's my way of giving back to you and saying, hey, congratulations. Everything is great. Or no, this is wrong. And unfortunately, I have yet to come across one where there was not some things that were wrong. Okay. Because again, all these changes happen. Let's go to mistake number 2 that I see. Your trust isn't fully funded. Remember, funded means you've transferred the asset's name into the name of your trust. Okay. So not every asset, of course, can be transferred. And the reason it can't be transferred, there's no title to it. So for example, I had this discussion with a client today. She's like, do I need to transfer my vehicles into the trust that you're creating for me? I said, no, you really don't need to do a vehicle transfer simply because vehicles are really simple because you have a title. You go down to the DMV and show them or your beneficiary shows them the death certificate, and you go from there. Now, the vehicle, along with other assets, tools. I just had a conversation right before the show with a client, guns, things like that. You can either gift those over to somebody, or if you don't do that, remember the second component of your estate plan is what's called a pour over will. That will acts as what I call a fishing net. So it captures all of the assets that you don't have a title to that you were not able to fund. So things like the guns, jewelry, cash, I mean, you name it. So all those things with a pour over will, they get captured. they avoid probate because you have the pour over will combined with the revocable trust. But again, fully funded means, well, like the gentleman I shared with you a moment ago, he's got, millions of dollars of assets. Not one of them are in a trust because he doesn't have a trust. But let's say he had a trust, and some of that, $50 million of investment real estate. If it's, I told him, first of all, you need to do is put it put those in LLCs to get you the asset protection, because right now you're a walking lawsuit target. And then the second way you do that is then you do an assignment where you're transferring the ownership of that LLC over to the name of the trust, so therefore it avoids probate. So there's a lot of ways that we can do it. But I'm seeing it a lot. Assets are not funded. Where I'm seeing it the most is on bank accounts, savings accounts, and a few brokerage, but definitely bank and savings accounts, right? People tend to change banks over time, and they just never put that new bank account into the name of the trust. So we make sure when we create the trust that that's one of the funding instructions we give. So again, typically things that are not funded: homes, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, again, LLC interests. So remember, a trust only controls the assets that are properly titled or, as I said, assigned to it. Mistake number 3, your beneficiary designation does not match your estate plan. Remember, when you open an IRA, 401k through your work, if you have life insurance, if you have annuities, you were asked when you open those accounts, who do you want to name as your primary and contingent beneficiary? Well, everybody names a primary. A majority, I'd say less than majority, name a contingent, which means the person that gets the money if you and the primary are gone. But here's the problem that I'm coming across, and that is people are naming, again, beneficiaries in the IRAs, 401ks, life insurance, etc. But those beneficiaries are different than the ones they've named in their trust. So remember, the IRA in this example, IRA application is the governing document. So if you name, generally if you're married, you're going to name your spouse as primary beneficiary. Okay. But what if you didn't? What if you forgot on, let's say, your 401k, and you have an ex-wife, or maybe you don't like your wife or your husband and you've named a kid, but in your trust, you named somebody different. Guess what? Whomever you've named in that IRA application or life insurance app or 401k application, that is the person that's going to get the money, not who you name in your trust. So it is a big, big problem. People, again, as time goes on, things change. They forget to update that. So we want to make sure that the beneficiaries in the trust match the beneficiaries in the IRA, 401k, etc. Again, beneficiary forms, just remember this, beneficiary forms override the trust. Mistake number 4, your successor trustee is no longer the best choice. Now, what the heck is a successor trustee? That's the person that you've named, designated to handle your estate. They are the top dog when you and your spouse, if you have a spouse, are gone. They are like I said, top dog. They're making all of the decisions to follow the instructions of your living trust. And as I think I did a show last Wednesday, people just haphazardly name a successor trustee, which is a major mistake. Again, you want to name somebody that's got a good business acumen. Hopefully they live close by. They've got the time to be, the successor trustee, etc. Now, you can name multiple successor trustees. I don't like that strategy personally, because guess what? Let's say you have 2 kids and you go, you know what? Love both of them. They're both smart, good business acumen, etc. So I'm going to name my son and my daughter as 50-50 successor trustees. Reason I don't like that? Guess what? They've got to agree. Many times they don't agree. So now they've got a problem handling your estate. So choose a person, like I said, that has good business acumen, etc., and you shouldn't have any problem. But make sure, the other problem that I see, make sure you tell that person, that successor trustee, make sure you, first of all, get their permission that they want to be successor trustee. Secondly, make sure you pay them, as I said last week, because it's a lot of work, a lot of responsibility. It's a legal obligation also, right? If you're a successor trustee, you have a fiduciary responsibility to that estate. You are personally held liable if you screw up, if you embezzle, if you don't handle it as a fiduciary. You're on the hook. So it's a huge responsibility, nothing to be taken lightly. So your successor trustee is, again, extremely, extremely important. Make sure you have the right choice. So take account for what their health condition is. You don't want somebody that's, frail and not able to travel or meet with professionals, etc. Take account their age, right? Especially if you are younger than what they are. Do you want them around? I mean, are they going to be around, do you think, 10, 15 years from now? Their location, as I said, I've seen it happen many times where people will name like a child that lives back east, and then Husband and wife are gone, and that child is trying to manage the estate as the successor trustee from far away. And it's very, very difficult, even with today's technology. So, question is, if you have an existing trust, which is our topic today, would you choose the same trustee today as you did originally? Again, a discussion I had right before the show with a client. He named somebody that, years and years ago, while we're doing a trust restatement, he's not sure if this guy's even going to want to do it again. So that's a big question. Last thing you want, and again, this is very common, you've named someone years ago. Again, you haven't had your trust reviewed. So let's say 10 years ago, you had the trust done. And now, let's say you named, Cousin Fred. Well, Cousin Fred is now 10 years older, different life, and maybe moved and so on and so forth. Does Cousin Fred really still want to be the successor trustee? If the answer is no, again, that's the reason that you got to have this trust review and get things restated. All right, when we come back, I'm going to squeeze in, I think maybe one, if not two more, which is another reason that people make mistakes with existing trusts. Their powers of attorney are outdated. To the John Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH. Let's continue down our path, the 10 common mistakes people make with existing trusts. All right, so I left off with mistake number 5. The powers of attorney are outdated. Now, what the heck am I talking about? So remember, part of a comprehensive estate plan is your financials powers of attorney and your medical powers of attorney. Now, the financial goes by the correct term, advanced directive, but I'm just going to keep it simple and call it financial POA and medical POA. Once again, when you create the financial POA and the medical POA, you name an agent. That agent or agents, and I'm just going to make it simple, make it one agent. That agent is the one responsible to fulfill your wishes. So let's use the medical side. They are the ones, again, that are, quote, officially in charge of all of the decisions that you've made in your living trust. I want to be on life support. I don't. I want to have hydration. I want to have food. I don't. All these different things. This is what the agent of the medical POA. Once again, common mistake is people name somebody, or they named them years ago. That person may not be around. Do you really want someone to be your your medical POA if they live in Topeka, Kansas, and you're here in Reno? Probably not. So think about, once again, location. Are they here locally? Can they run to the hospital in the event that you become unable to make your own medical decisions? So very important on the medical POA. Same thing on the financial side. Not quite as important as the medical, but same thing. You're going to name an agent or agents to handle all of your financial affairs. They would deal with companies like mine, on the investment side. They would deal with attorneys and CPAs and real estate agents and so on and so forth. So once again, they need to have a good financial acumen, be able to understand things, talk to people, be organized, so on and so forth. But who have you named on that? Is it somebody here locally? Not as critical, as I said, as the medical, but at least they should understand technology where they could jump on a video call with the professionals and talk with them. Very important. Is it the right person? Can they handle it? Maybe when you named them 10 years ago, as an example, maybe your estate was hopefully it was significantly smaller then than where it is now. Is the person you have as your financial POA, can they handle an estate the size of yours? Right? That's another major consideration. So, question you want to ask, would the people you've chosen then, when you wrote the trust, would they still be your choice? If the answer is no, time to have a restatement. Number 6, your family situation has changed. Boy, marriage, divorce, births, deaths, grandchildren, special needs children that you thought were going to be great and they developed a drug or alcohol problem, or you're trying to shield their inheritance from a sticky finger wife or ex-wife or ex-husband, so on and so forth. Very, very important to understand the family dynamics and family situation. There are ways, again, in the estate planning documents to protect, again, your money going to, let's say, your son who's got a sticky finger wife or your daughter who has a sticky finger husband. There's a way to protect it so that those daughter or son-in-law can't get their hand on it. But it has to be the right documentation in the living trust. So does your trust that you wrote X number of years ago still reflect your wishes? Mistake number 7, you bought new assets. You bought a new home. You bought a rental property, a vacation property. You created a business. You sold a business. You had an LLC. Now you don't have an LLC. You had investment accounts. Are your new assets coordinated with your trust? As I said earlier, they need to match. And if they don't, there could be significant problems. Again, back to the funding side of it. If they're not listed in the living trust, such as taxable accounts, like a taxable brokerage account, as I mentioned, it's going to probate, even though if you have an estate plan. Remember your IRA, 401k life insurance, where you've named beneficiaries, those don't need to be in the trust unless you have certain language and you want to have rules as to how the recipient of that money can spend it and so on and so forth. It's a whole nother subject. Mistake number 8, tax and financial laws have changed. Number 9, your family doesn't know where anything is. And number 10, you assume everything is fine because you have a trust. Those are just 10. I could probably give you a list of 100. Give me a call if you need a review of yours. And by all means, sign up for our webinar next Wednesday. Is your trust outdated? Go to specializedtrust.com, click on Step Learning Center. God bless. Have a great afternoon. See you tomorrow.